Hello, 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 good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome to another Alan Heath Sessions with me, Keith. Hopefully you can hear me and see me. We are live. Please don't swear. It's only me. Hopefully I won't. Welcome along. Thanks for joining again. Andre's here. Guten Tag. Guten Tag. Welcome. So Andre's got some amazing videos on YouTube. If you haven't seen them, go check them out. Ralph's here. Hi, Ralph. And Karen's here. Hi, Karen. How you doing? Rob, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. So, as I say, we are live, and you can pop any questions you like in the comments, and I will try to answer them. That's how it works. It's a fairly simple concept. The rules are today is SQ. Next week is I'm going to do one on Q. There's also Jack's doing some on Avantis and dLive, and Al's been doing some on Zone as well, which have been pretty interesting. So you can check all of those out. They're all recorded as well, so you can go back and watch them. But really, it's just a chance for you guys to ask us anything you like, and we will do our best to answer. So some more people coming in now. So Hanru, hello. And Mike said hi. Hi, Mike. How you doing? Mike with his I don't know what a collection of ANH mixes would be called. You know, you have like a parliament and like a murder of crows and things. I don't know. We'll have to think of something. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And Gena is here. I think is how you pronounce that, from the Philippines. Hello. So yeah, with the sessions, I'm going to post you a link very quickly. You can catch up with all the sessions we've already had at any point in time. Christian's here. Hi, Christian. And those are all available on the sessions page here. And you'll see some links to stuff that we've done. You'll see some special guest posts of tips and tricks from engineers who are far better engineers than I. I mean, Jack's a very good engineer as well. But go and get some tips from those guys. And there's also like the mini masterclasses available there as well. From the US guys. So yeah, go check all of those out. And as I say, please do post questions in the comments as we go through. I did get a few beforehand, so I'm going to go and do those first. Namaste from India. Hello, Imtiaz? Imtiaz. I'm going to go with Imtiaz. Ivan's here as well. Hey, Ivan, how you doing, man? Okay, let's start with this one because Ivan has asked a question, which I will get onto, but I'm going to make sure I've done these ones first because these people got in early. So this is a biggie, and we are getting this a lot, so I would like to address it because it's very frustrating for a lot of people. So Uros has asked, what's happening with SQ5 availability? So it's not just SQ5, it's not just SQ, it's not just Q. It's kind of availability, I would say, for everything, for all products, and not every single product, but this is down to a lot of different things going on at the moment with component shortages, with shipping issues, with back orders, with a massive surge in demand that we've seen over the past 6 months or so. And honestly, I can't give you a nice, easy answer to that question. The best people to get in contact with are your local distributors. I think I've got a link somewhere here. So if you are waiting on something, let's get this in the chat. If you're waiting on an order, they're being fulfilled in the order that they were received. So there are back orders at the moment. There isn't, unfortunately, there isn't a secret warehouse full of mixers. We would love to get your mixer yesterday, of course. And also, people aren't jumping the queue. I've had a few cheeky people saying, "Hey, can I get a mixer early?" Unfortunately, no. That would be very mean on all the people who have ordered one already. So I'm sorry that is the case. We are doing our best, but yeah, get in contact with your local distributor. They're getting updates from us of what's being shipped, and when we are shipping, they can then they can cross-reference that information with the information of all the back orders, and they are going to be able to give you the best ETA. Okay, so next question is from Ramondo Cock. Can I make stereo channels a scene property instead of a desk property? Now, the reason you can't do this, because we do get this question every now and then, is because when you change the stereo channels, the stereoification of input channels on SQ, or the mix channels, which I can show you here. Is that right? Yeah, you can see that. That's fine. Don't know if I've not focused this camera, but it's okay. It's okay. So if I go into my setup and my mixer config, and I've got my input stereos and mix stereos, this is what Ramondo's talking about here. And when you change one of these and you hit apply, you're actually changing the mixer config. You're changing the underlying kind of architecture of the mixer, and that will reset the core. So if you do that on some of the larger mixers, for example, where there's a lot more going on, there's a lot more routing paths and that kind of thing, it's going to take a little while to kind of reconfigure the desk. With SQ, just because of the way it works, it's very, very quick and happens almost instantaneously. But the keyword there is almost. It doesn't happen instantly. It will drop the audio slightly, and that's because it's, as I say, rejigging all the routing paths. It's the foundation of everything else that you build upon. And for that reason, it will never be included in the scene changes, because the scene changes are changes in processing and parameters that live on top. So I did draw a little mini list over here somewhere. There it is. So this is what we went through on the last session, which was all to do with the control layer. And the fact that you have a current state, and you can change that current state with the remote UI, with Surface UI, so with the console itself, and also by storing and recalling things from show scenes libraries. And so looking a bit more in detail at the show kind of stuff and the scene stuff, this is what's stored in each of those. So in each scene, you have all your patching and routing points. So that's this socket goes to this channel, etc. This mix goes to that output channel, direct outs, that kind of thing. All of your assignments, so assignments of input channels to mixes to matrices, etc. Preamp settings, so you can change those preamp settings. And obviously all of these can be blocked with your per scene filters or your global filters. All of your processing, your effects, and the soft controls. So by default, those are blocked, but you can unblock those if you want. So you could have different keys doing different things on different scene changes, which can sometimes be quite useful. So yeah, that's like all the stuff that's kind of high level, if you like. And then you've got the show. So the show contains the current state of the desk. So that means that the current state is slightly separate to all the scenes, because when you store a show, you're storing all of the scenes, all of the data that you can see there, but also the current state, which is just the state that it will boot up in. So you've got this current state that's always saving. If you want to know a bit more information on that, that was in the last session. Let's go check that out. But you can see in the show we've got the mix config. Let's have a quick slurp of my my mole recommended tea, which is I can also recommend now. Lemon and ginger and honey. So yeah, mix config is part of a show, and the idea there is that you've set up your mixer, you've set up the underlying architecture before you do the show, and the scenes are for like different songs or for different scenes in the theatre show, or they can be different setups in some way in an install, but usually in that case everything is still fixed. So like an input from a keyboard might be stereo, might be on a stereo channel, and that always plugs into the same box. And metering the surface preferences is included in the show, and then in each unit itself is the user settings. So that means that if an engineer brings along their show to an SQ console that's at a venue, then they will need to have admin settings to do all the admin stuff, but it means people can be locked out. So you're not just loading up a show and then suddenly all your user permissions are completely off. And of course, network and stuff, so you can access things via the network and the network name, and the calibration of the faders, because obviously that's unique to each unit. So hopefully that explains a little bit more about the data structure and what's involved and why we can't do it, but ways around it. So you can move around all that patching and routing, as we saw, per scene. So you could have a set number. I know this is the Rob Ashard recommended route to take, pun intended, which is to set up some stereo channels beforehand, and then you can pull those into each scene whenever you need to use them. So you could have, I mean, by standard, you've got 4 as the standard default. You've got 4 stereo channels. You could have like 8 stereo channels if you want. And if you use up to 8 stereo channels, you can then bring them in as and when they're needed, because you can change the layout of the console. You can change the patching on a scene by scene basis. So none of that will interrupt the audio, and you can, bring them in quickly like that. The other way is ganging. So if I show you that quickly, hang on, setup. Let's get setup and utility mixed up. Don't know about you guys. So in ganging, we've got 8 gangs with 12 members, and quite simply, if I wanted to, I could bring in, so what have I got on the surface at the moment? 33, 34. So let's have a quick look here. So let's get 33 and 34, and I can just chuck those in like that, which is nice. Let's just do the fader for now so you can see what's going on. And I'm going to say apply, groovy, and if I go to this camera, so this is 33 and 34 over here. You can see that the faders are now linked. So you can do more than that, obviously, because you can use the ganging for the PEQ and stuff, and some of the processing and some of the routing options, and that means that they're going to follow. The cool thing you can do here as well is you can hide one of those off the surface. So if I wanted to, I could take that 34 and use it elsewhere. So if your issue or your reason for wanting to go stereo in between scenes is because you want to use less faders and channel strips, then that's the way to do it. Is hide away 34, just be showing 33 in this case, so just showing the left side maybe, and set it up as a gang, and then when you switch to that scene, you've just got the single fader still. You can name it what you like, but you have got stereo operation going on. Okay. There's all these people I've just noticed. Sorry, I'm going off on one about all this data, and so there's all these people here. It's very rude of me. How rude. So Andre says, almost SQ just ordered an AB6 and noticed difference in the venting openings in the chassis. One has tiny little holes, the other has slots. Why did the design change? Hey, this is an interesting question. And if you saw my interview with Andre, you know he tested me with lots of close-up shots of our products, and I was guessing what they were, which was great fun. And one of those did have the new little holes. It's not a very exciting answer, but it is kind of interesting. And because you've asked, it's to do with regulations. So it's new regulations where I think what they're trying to do is stop people from sticking stuff in. And it's more difficult to stick stuff in the little holes than it is if there's a slot, I guess, or something to fall in. I don't know. It's just to do with safety regulations. So we had to change all of our venting. So yeah, you can kind of tell the age of a unit by looking at the vents. There you go. Hello from Cincinnati, Ohio, says Eric. This is an interesting question. Here we go. So Eric's asking for a scene insert feature. Don't know. I don't know. We'd have to look into it, Eric. So don't know. I can't remember if that one's been requested. I mean, we have had requests for like a queue list on SQ, because that would make it easier. In the meantime, the best thing to do, and I've done quite a few theatre shows on SQ. Let's pop you this in the message. Best thing to do is leave some gaps. So that means kind of like have a scene, I tend to leave like 3 slots, then put in your next scene, leave 3 slots, put in your next scene. In terms of the numbering, I number it by the name anyway, because otherwise it'd still be completely messed up. So you're naming it in there. You can copy and paste and move those around whenever you want, but it means that you can just store one in the middle between two. We could store 3. You can leave 2 gaps, you can leave 1 gap. But if you leave those gaps there, the scene go auto increment function on the soft keys, which a lot of people tend to use for theatre, will still jump those blank scenes and go to the next viable scene, if you like. So that's one way of doing it and moving things around. The way the actual scene list works itself, though, is it's referencing positions in an array of data, so you kind of can't insert because it's referencing that exact point. So you do it in a different way. I mean, we could look into it, pop it in the feature suggestions, have a quick search for it first. If enough people really want that feature, and I think there's a few who do, then we will definitely look at it. Blit has asked a Q question, but I'm going to answer it anyway. Which is there a possibility we get Android version of QPad? So there's no plans to do an Android version of QPad. It was built when Android was deemed to be a little bit insecure kind of thing. It was iPads definitely ruled the roost. Obviously with SQ, we've built it from the ground up to be cross-compatible, but the QPad app was built specifically for iOS devices or iPad. There is a third-party app, though, which is Mixing Station, and we worked with the developer on that initially to get them up and going and create that. So that is a viable alternative, which is Mixing Station Q or Mixing Station Pro, I think, and that's available on all platforms. And some people actually prefer that, but yeah, we are quite happy to recommend that. It's a good option. Okay. Hello, Germany. Ella McClary, hello. Would it be possible to change the order in SQ for you? I'm not sure how I fully understand this question, but I'm going to try to understand this question. Okay, that was only if it's possible to change the channel order in the SQ for you app. Yes, you could post that as a feature request. I see what you mean. So having in the groups, you've got the 4 groups, and then you've got channels within those groups. You're talking about moving around how those channels are. So presumably, if you've got 8 things, maybe they go off the screen. Like 8 channels, and maybe you want some more important ones at the beginning to do some more in-depth tweaking. Interesting idea, I like it. Pop it on the feature suggestions section. Okay, is there... Ooh. So Lau says, is there any possibility to connect an expander stage box redundant to an SQ? Not with... So with SQ, you've got for digital connections, for expander connections, you've got the S-Link port and you've got the I/O port. So the S-Link port is the built-in port. The I/O port allows you to use option cards. So your options for Allen and Heath protocol devices are for the S-Link ports. So that's 2 independent S-Link ports. So there's no way to do redundancy there because you've only got the 2 ports and they are independent. So they run separate sample rate conversion. They have a separate connection. So there's no redundancy available there. What you can do, though, is use, you can run the Dante card in redundant mode, and you can use DT boxes. So you could use DT expanders, 16.4W, DT 16.4W, DT 16.8, for example. The upcoming DT 2.2s are kind of more of an install thing, but you could use those expanders and you can run 2 cables from the Dante card, run the card in redundant mode, run the boxes in redundant mode, set up 2 switches, and away you go. M. Shafe says, I can't get a DX hub. Is there more coming soon? Yes. So as I was saying, kind of at the beginning, there's supply. There's lots of kind of supply and demand. There's more demand than supply at the moment, unfortunately. We are shipping. We are building things. It's taking... people are buying things faster than we can build them. Is the long short of it. But we are shipping, so yes, there are more coming soon. Hey, I don't care. I'm laughing because you said don't laugh. I mean, hey Keith, we are using SQ5 in church and I'm sending an aux to Zoom. That's cool. That's fine. However, constantly have users saying either cuts out or the volume is low. Not sure what else to check. So we have a page on streaming. I wonder if I can find it. There is a... In fact, there's a whole session we did on streaming, and if you go to that sessions page that I linked to somewhere up there in the chat, there is also a session from Croft, who's the mix wizard, and he did a whole session on streaming and advice for processing and for getting a good kind of into a good level area. So you're kind of compressing, not too hard, but you're kind of squishing it down a bit, so you get a nice kind of constant level going out. The quick answer is, if you're going from an aux out, is to say, which aux out am I not using? Hang on, that one maybe. I know I'm sending to you with aux 1. Okay, if I go to processing and I go to my compressor, so I can say I wasn't using my compressor. I mean, I am. I can set the ratio of any of the compressors on the outputs as 1:1. And what this does is means I can then just boost the gain. So I literally have like an extra gain at the end. So if you've ridden your fader to the top, so you've given it an extra 10 dB of gain, and that's still not enough, and you want to push it a bit further, you can also add some gain at this point. I mean, remember to switch it on, obviously. But that is another way to boost the output level on just that mix. And we've also done a session on the differences with levels. So let me find knowledge base. And knowledge base is great, and it's got some really useful articles. In fact, the search function works quite well. Let's search for it. Levels. I should find it, right? There you go. Levels and metering. So what you're asking there is also related to the fact that the headroom of the SQ, you've got 18 dB of headroom effectively, and when we send off to USB, so that if you're recording, you've still got all of that headroom. You're not changing the data at all. For streaming, you might want to boost it a little bit. And there is some information in that article about levels, so hopefully that's helpful for you. Okay, let's have a look. Nicholas says, hello, Keith. Hello, Nicholas. What is planned for the future? More matrices, more effects. In fact, I haven't asked about this. Let's get Ivan up here. It says, hello, Keith, cool beard. Thank you very much. Are more matrices planned? I can't tell you what is planned. I can't tell you what we're looking at because it might not happen, and that would only end in disappointment. More matrices has certainly been suggested in the communities, in the digital community, and it has been requested a lot. So it is quite high on that list. Whether or not we can do it, whether or not it's possible, is up to kind of development and test time. I don't know if it is possible. I don't know if we can do something else, but all of that will kind of come out in the wash. If nothing happens, please don't be disappointed. That's the reason we don't try and commit to things. But it would be nice, and I can see how it'd be very useful. I've had a couple of occasions where I thought, yeah, do you know what? I need just one more monomatrix. Can you put high? Oh, interesting. Can you put high pass filter on an effects mix? Says Nick. Not directly. So you do get an EQ. I suppose. Can you do it that way? So on an effects mix. So you just mean on the return, maybe. So if you're just doing a return, yeah. So you can just take the effects on return. You can go into the EQ there. So every one of the effects returns, you've got 8 dedicated stereo effects returns. Every one of those has the option to put in some filtering if you wanted to. So yeah, I guess the answer is yeah. It's not a dedicated high pass filter in the same way as you'd see on the input channels, but it is a high pass filter. So yeah, yes is the answer. Okay, how can I get? Sunia says, hello, I've got an SQ7 with a 48x16, so it's GX4816 stage box. How can I get full control of my subs without linking it to the main LR? So you can. There's two options, and it can cause huge arguments. So please don't argue in this chat today. But you can do aux fed subs, and you could do matrix fed subs. So if you wanted to do a matrix fed sub, so you say subs, so you must have two. So you either want a stereo aux or a stereo matrix. So with the stereo matrix, all you need to do is, let's go and get this focused a little bit better. Come on, boop boop. There we go. Okay, so easiest thing to do here is, let me find my main LR, select my main LR, and then use channel tool mix, and now I can send, and I can hold reset at the same time, and I can just flick up. Let's put subs on matrix 3. There you go. So just tap that, goes up there. I can do channel tool mix and assign, and make sure that it's assigned. So now I am sending my left-right mix. You can see it's lit up there, to my matrix 3, so you can see those are matching because it's just getting the LR signal. So now I've got main LR level, and I've got my subs level. I could label that up as subs as well if I wanted to. And then I've got a whole extra load of processing on top of the left-right mix. So it's going to be the left-right mix, a copy of the left-right mix, if you like, with an extra full channel of processing. So I can compress it separately. I could EQ it separately. The other way is to do a post fed, which is the aux I used a minute ago. 3. Okay, great. Let's use that one. Right, let's just undo what I did, because otherwise I forget. So same steps in reverse. Whole channel tool mix, and I can bring that down. I can also use reset. Just do that. So what am I doing now? Right. So my left-right mix. Say I've got, this is in my left-right mix now, and I've got, just want to make sure I'm not sending this to you, because otherwise you might get like some weird noises or something. Right, so I've got a mix going on in my left-right mix, and what I want to do with 3, I'm going to use 3 again, is my subs. I'm going to set all of those to post, so at the moment they're all pre, and I can set all of them to post by holding pre-fade, and then pressing the select on the master there, or I can do them one by one. But I want them to all be post. So hold on that. Now they're all post. And I want to make sure they're all signed. So they are all signed. If you want to take something out of your subs, you could unassign it here. So you just hold down assign and unassign some things that you don't want in the subs. I don't know, maybe triangle, maybe maraca. I don't know what else. Tambourine. Never sounds great in the subs. But you can take those out here. And then let's hold reset again. And let's do the most fun thing, which is that. Great fun. So set all of those to 0. And now everything that I do in the main mix, so this is also what's coming out of my aux 3 exactly. If I want to tweak it a little bit, I can tweak it a little bit here. So I don't know, maybe there was slightly too much guitar going to it, but I still wanted it in the subs, so I could do that. But generally, it's just going to follow what I do here. So that's your kind of aux fed sub. Don't forget to set it to stereo if you want it to be stereo, or set it to mono and feed it out to 2 sockets. Well, it's a very quick one. If you need more details on any of this stuff, sorry if that was a bit quick, you can contact us using support.alan-heath.com. I'll post a link to that. And yeah, we can help you through any of this stuff and write it down for you, so it's not just me going blah, 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 blah. All right, let's see what other questions we've got here. I think I did have another question. Oh, I did have one on YouTube from Wall, who is sometimes can make it and sometimes can't. I don't think he can make it today. So he has asked, hey Keith, can we get gain tracking when using tie lines on S-Link added as a feature? Thank you for the question. Please do post it in the digital community, as with all the feature suggestions, if you can say it correctly. But gain tracking has just been added to dLive. Is that right? one of the big consoles with all the big channels, loads of channels. One of those big ones. But gain tracking is where you've got the two consoles, and one is compensating for the other, so you can compensate with trim when you change the gain on one. I think what we might be asking for here is where you've got gain tracking through tie lines. So you've got one console connected to the expander controlling the gain, and if they change the gain, that it would change on the second. It would automatically compensate on the second console, so you don't get a big change in level, because it's obviously a digital input instead of you controlling the actual gain of the preamp. I'm not sure if it's possible to do this on SQ in quite the same way, because it's the interface is more kind of simplified. Like so the S-Link connection says, hey, yes, I do this, and if you connect to expander, it shares information about gain, so the phantom power, the pad, and the actual gain. But when you connect a system to a system, it's a load of channels. So if you connect an S-Link port on an SQ to another SQ S-Link port, you're getting 128 channels in either direction, but there's no other information floating around. So there's no other. It's not passing any more information. So I don't know if it's possible to actually do that, to actually share that information. But if we get lots of people asking for it, it's something that we will look into. The best thing to do, I think, in the meantime, if you do have two consoles, is to use. Let's go in here. Surface preferences. Preamp on surface. So this preamp on surface key here. What have I got that's assigned to a? These are all on USB, aren't they? Let's assign one to a local socket. Okay, so let's assign to local socket 1. Oh, it's dangerous. I've left 48 volts phantom power on. Okay, so if I've got that on, you can't quite see, but I am over here, just off to the side of the screen, and I am controlling the gain with the surface dedicated control, and you can see that it's changing the gain. Makes sense. If I go back to my setup screen and I switch preamp on surface off, and now I change that control, now it's controlling trim instead. So that means, because trim is part of processing, and tie lines come post preamp, pre-trim, that means my surface control now only controls my local console. So if I've got two units hooked up, my dedicated controls are now only controlling trim. So it's only for me, it's only affecting me. And the other person's controls, because it's digital input anyway, that's going to control trim anyway. So that's all fine. And then for the person who is connected to the expander, they might be looking at this screen more commonly, and they can jump in and they can still go in and change the gain there with the touch and turn if they need to. So it's only changing the dedicated control on the surface. Hope that helps someone. Okay, let's see what other questions we've got here. If you do have questions, please do post them. Zack, that's a really difficult question, Zack. And not one that I can easily answer, but I'm going to put it up on the screen and I'm going to have a go. Oh, see, well, is here. It's the next question along. So, where is ANH at as far as the life cycle of the SQ series? Wow, what a question. So it's been out for a few years now. 1, 2, 3 years. I think 3 years now. But life cycles of products is, I mean, Q's been out for quite a few years now. Some products will be around for years and years and years. We've been making the Mix Wizard. I know it's an analog console, and we've updated it. But we've been doing Mix Wizards for tens of years. We've been doing Zeds for a really long time now. We've had it. It just depends. I mean, if they're still, I mean, they're so far ahead in their field, is what I'd say. So if they're still like relative and they're still selling because they're still useful, then we're going to carry on building them and carry on selling them. There's no reason to change them. If there's a reason to change them and we need to do something different, or we come across some amazing new technology that can make everything better, then maybe it gets changed. But it's an unknown. So it's a fascinating question. and something that I think about quite a lot, but we just don't know. So sorry, I can't answer that. Anthony says mixing station is great on cue. It is. Tito says, "Hey, I finally made it to a live session, so I'm gonna welcome Tito, and thanks for coming." And I managed off-the-shelf fast Ethernet. So an unmanaged off-the-shelf fast Ethernet switch will work with DX devices. I think Anthony was responding to the redundancy, maybe, or was it something else? I don't know. But an unmanaged off-the-shelf fast Ethernet switch will work with DX devices. That's kind of yes and no. So if you connect to an S-Link port, the S-Link port will switch into a mode. If you connect a fast Ethernet device, it will be looking for DX or D-Snake devices. And if you connect up a gigabit switch, it will look for gigabit devices. So GX, so a console-to-console connection, or a GX4816 connection. So yes, fast Ethernet is the right one for DX devices. Unmanaged is right. We can't guarantee that all of them will work, but you can use that to extend your connection. So that can be useful sometimes. How would you use a bass guitar as a key for a kick compressor? Jim, I got you, man. I got you. This is a good question. It's one that I can answer. So, sidechain. So let's say I've got, what was it, kick and bass. How do you use a bass guitar as a key for a kick compressor? A bass kick compressor. Okay, yeah, cool. Right. Kick. Play. Bass. Play. So my compressor on my kick channel, and then I've got sidechain up here. I'm covering it up with my finger. And I can say, is it self-keyed or is it being keyed from somewhere else? It's being keyed from input 2. And now I can use the filter as well, and I can use a bandpass filter if I wanted to. So I can key it from with a filtered input. So with the bass, what I want to do is probably kind of, I don't know, maybe it is the low pass filter. So yeah, maybe I'll stick the low pass filter somewhere like there. What are we on? 800. So we're not triggering it with because presumably you want to use this to squish down the kick and let the bass kind of come through. So we're interested a bit more in the lower frequencies, perhaps. So make sure the filter's in. Make sure you've got it the sidechain switched on. And now if I pretend that my voice is bass, so let's go to channel 2, and let's get that from local socket. I think, what am I on, 16? Probably it's the one next to talkback. Okay, I am a bass, and if I go back to 1 and look at here, press the right thing. You can see that the output level is staying the same over here because I've got no signal coming in. But you can also see that my sidechain is being fed from the bass channel, which is being fed by my mic at the moment. So easy as that. Probably made that more complicated than it actually is as well. So apologies. Okay. CD says, hello, so Keith, we use SQ6 at church. Awesome. Jeff said, Jeff says, I send my effects to a group. This is another good way of doing it. And high pass filter there. Yeah, so if you've got a few effects, that's another good way of doing it, because you could have control over all of them at once if it's to do with the system sound and where you want to put it in the mix. Can we have the option to move scenes? See, Simon says, Simon says, can we have the option? So we did have this question earlier. So if you guys group up and go and jump on the feature suggestions, you can probably get it quite high up the list. But yeah, moving scenes, scene queue list in future updates. So yeah, similar question to one we had earlier, Simon, which was moving things around, inserting things, inserting scenes. In a fixed station, separate Is that what I look like? Limit user, is this the way to go? Ooh. Dedicated inputs and outputs. The locked limited user on iPad. That's quite a complex question, I think. I mean, yes, that is the way to go. The user permissions on SQ are pretty granular, so you can allow access to only certain things if you're doing Mixpad. But yeah, in a fixed installation, Andrew, give us a shout. We can certainly help you out with that one, and let us know exactly what you need, and we can go through it with you and work out whether that's possible or whether that's the best option. And exactly as Anthony says, that sounds like a job for AHM. Yeah, so with AHM, you could use custom control, and that gives you a bunch of different users can log in, bring your own device, log in. It will give them a setup. It'll only give them the controls that they need, and you've got lots and lots of zones, and that's exactly what it's designed for as a matrix mixer. Again, a faderless SQ, maybe, please. Maybe, and please do suggest that in the SQ feed suggestions. There's definitely a thread on that, a very big one, with lots of interesting opinions. Some people say it should have inputs, some people say it shouldn't have inputs, and we're interested in all of that information. What is it that you want and why? That's the most important thing. So yes, this would be cool, but what would you use it for? What's the application? Because again, with things like AHM, if somebody says, I want to use an SQ for an installation, well, maybe the AHM and the new AHM 16 and 32, maybe that's a more suitable solution for some situations. So yeah. Okay, we use the matrix when streaming. Is there a way to prevent users muting or changing the matrix output level? Still PAFL the matrix monitoring. Oh, I think I've got an idea. So Mark says, we use the matrix for streaming. Is there a way to prevent users muting or changing the matrix output level, but still allow them to PAFL the matrix for monitoring? Let's see if anybody else has answered it already. They might have done. Probably. I'm going to try and show you quickly though. So let's go setup, surface, soft controls, and go to SD number 6. Why not? Can I do a PAFL in here, or is it only channel PAFL? There we go. And then I can PAFL my matrix. So there you go. I've got a PAFL on just PAFL my matrix 1 on SoftKey 6. Apply. And now I can just PAFL 1. And obviously I can access that as well if I was mixing for a stream on an iPad somewhere, and I had some headphone system set up, or I had some speakers set up in another room and I was mixing via Mixpad. Cool, hope that helps. SQ70, right now we route 3 of them to mix. Will it all get shown? SQ7 to Aviom D400 to old Aviom mixers. Right now we route out of 3 of them to the mixer. Then to the aux for channel to feed monitors. Do the same on SQ. Not sure I understand the question, Ralph, but you can get in touch with us. For an Aviom setup, though, for like obviously the easiest thing to do would be to sell. Of course, I'd say this: sell your Aviom system and buy some ME units. But yeah, to feed Avioms, you can feed them the same way as you can feed any other third-party personal monitoring solution, which is either digitally via Dante Waves MADI. You can use any of the analog boxes, so you could use a DX012, for example, if you've got AES inputs on your monitoring solution, or you can just use analog, or you can use a Dante to analog to whatever bridge. But obviously, the more things you put in, the more latency there's going to be, and the more of a pain it's going to be for the musicians, because they're going to hear themselves slightly later all the time. Josh is here. Hi, Josh. How you doing? Josh is great. Okay, it's an interesting just for colors for channel strip on next firmware upgrade, says Roll. Yep, SQ feature suggestion section of the digital community. there is a thread on that one in there. So do jump in, add your voice. I mean, you can even just jump in and put +1 on something like that, because I think it'd be unfair to say, oh, please explain to us why you'd like more colors. It's because I've always envisioned the banjo as orange. Okay, because it's how do I set all faders 0 dB or get into Unity fader quickly for all ANH consoles precisely? I showed this earlier. I'm going to show it again though, because it's so much fun. So, Kallol, you can do this. Hold down the reset. Poke the fader. Poke the fader, poke the fader. Or do that. And then if you keep holding it and you poke it down, it'll go down. So there you go. Done. So much fun, so much fun. Okay, Jake's asking, how does gain sharing work if I'm using one SQ front of house and another SQ for monitors? So, Jake, the console that's connected to the expander has control of the preamps, because the preamps actually they're digitally controlled analog preamps. So they exist, they live, they belong to the socket, they live in the stage box. So they're only controlled by the first thing you connect them to, because you've expanded that system. The front of house to monitor connection, if you're doing a direct connection and you're using tie lines, that's a system to system connection, and you're patching through from that expanded socket. So like any other sockets in the one system, you're sending them on. And as I showed earlier, the best thing to do then is to switch off preamp control on surface, preamp on surface. Here we go. It's this one. Preamp on surface. Switch that off. And that will mean that both consoles, and switch off on both consoles, means that both consoles are only controlling trim with their gain pot on the surface. And they can still get into it. So they can still get into it here, and they can still get in and change the gain if they want to, on the one that's got the expander connected. Okay, has Fanta just SoftKey, so I don't have to dive into the preamp page every time for every channel. This is one that came up. It used to come up a bit, but it doesn't come so much anymore. Phantom to a SoftKey. We don't do Phantom to a SoftKey because obviously it's very dangerous, and we want it to be a very deliberate thing. But in terms of diving in on each channel, it's there as you go through and select the channels. It's always there, so it's still very quick to get to, but we do make it a hold process rather than just a push button, because it should be deliberate. It can cause issues. You can blow up. I mean, for example, if you connect up a Roland keyboard, it's got XLR outputs. If you connect those XLR outputs straight into one of our expanders and you switch on the phantom power, the Roland is not going to be happy. Okay, Josh is asking, will we ever get more matrices? Which Ivan asked earlier, so I can't say. And Anthony says, love the Mix Wizard. Yeah, love the Mix Wizard. He is a very cool guy and does some very cool videos. Okay, so still, okay, here we go. This is a good one. Good one. So, GDCVideoChannel. Another question. It is still not clear to me how I can use FX 5 to 8. So I want to use a chorus on FX 5 for the lead vocals. How do I do that? Okay, let's put a chorus on my voice. That'll be fun, won't it? So we go to there's a couple of different ways to do this, and I will show you both of them. So the first one would be a very deliberate way of going to the channel. So I've got my voice channel there. And then I can go in on my insert and I can assign it. So I can say effects unit, whatever effects unit I want to use. So 5 to 8 in this case. But because I don't know what effect is in there at the moment, I personally tend to go this way and go to here. And I'm going to say dynamic back creative delay. What do I want to do? Which one should I replace? Let's use 5 for the sake of argument. And I'm going to recall my modulator. Let's go with a let's chorus bright. Let's go chorus classic. Why not classic? So I've got my classic chorus, and because I'm already in this screen, I can actually just go to the back panel and I can say insert, and I'm going to insert it on 40, which I know is my channel. If I want to check that, by the way, I can just, it's not quite, if I just press the view key, you can't see that obviously, but if I press the view key, it will tell me the input channel number. So it's input channel 40. Hit apply, and now, amazing! This is brilliant. I've hit apply, and I've got a chorus in my voice. La 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 la. I mean, I don't know if that just sounds like Facebook and YouTube are just doing something dodgy with the bit rate, but let's pan it out a little bit. I don't want a lot of depth. Yeah, so like that, and if I want to take that insert out, I would probably do that from here. So I'll assign that for now. So that's how you can insert effects. The other thing you can do, of course, is use the mix and return, because you have got 8 dedicated returns. So if you've got some mixes free, so if you've got some auxes free, use up a couple of those auxes, and you can send to the other effects units if you want. It's kind of just a bit flexible in that way. Mike asked that question. Okay, thanks, Mike. Good question. And Lars says, are the 0.7 millisecond latency only the latency of the board itself, or from input on the expander to an output on the expander, perhaps also down copper or fiber? Well, the 0.7 millisecond latency measurement is from an analog input on the surface, so my local input on the back, to a local output on the back of the console. The latency stages of that are, and that's through all processing, so that's through an input channel, through a mix channel, and to the output. The different stages of that are the analog to digital conversion, the routing, so there's a little bit of latency in the internal routing section, the channel latency, the mix latency, potentially the matrix latency, and this is with all processing in or out, and then the conversion back from digital to analog back to the output. So what's kind of interesting with that is that if you use an expander, you have got a tiny bit more latency because you've got to transmit that signal. But that's only a very small amount of latency, because you think you've got to get that signal around anyway inside. So the channel latency is all exactly the same. It's pretty quick. I mean, obviously, electrical signals are traveling fairly close to the speed of light. So in terms of the extra latency of going over the transmission, that's minimal. And especially with the Allen Heath protocols, because they're layer 2, so they're point-to-point connections. So there's not a lot of negotiating going on. There's not lots of extra stages of latency there. And of course, if you've got a digital connection, you've taken the analog to digital conversion and potentially the digital to analog conversion and just moved it further away. So it's very similar. It would be probably a tiny bit more if you want to go and measure it, but it's not like it's going to be 5 milliseconds more. It's going to be like 0.05, or 0.1 millisecond more, if that. So it's not like a huge difference. And then it's different with different things. So if you've got a fiber converter going on, that could also be adding some sort of small amount of latency. So we don't give figures for everything, but in terms of the 0.7, which was your original question, that's the figure of latency, analog input to analog output, through a channel, through a mix, all processing switched in or out, doesn't matter. That's the beauty of the system, and that's why everything is kind of synced up, and one of the reasons why it sounds so good. Okay. Zack says a perfect answer to the life cycle question. Oh, I thought it was a terrible answer, but thanks. I'm glad it made some sense, hopefully. Here we go. So Douglas Edwards says, does deep processing work without dLive? So deep processing, Douglas, is a feature of the XCVI core, and that's our modeling processing that sits within the channel. So it leads on from the latency question we just had, because If I jump back on my voice channel, and I look at the compressor I'm using a deep compressor. So I'm using a deep compressor in lieu of the standard compressor. So that's dropped into the channel. So that hasn't changed the latency of that channel. If I took that channel and I fed the same socket to this channel, in fact, let's just do it. Why not? So it's local socket 16, was it? I'm going to overrun. I should probably finish in a minute. I'm very sorry. If you've got any more questions, please get them in now, because I'm having too much fun and I'm just going to overrun. So I have got on this channel deep processing, and I've got a deep compressor enabled. On this channel, I'm feeding it from the exact same socket. Maybe I have the gate switched in. Maybe I have the EQ switched out. And maybe I'm using the stock compressor. But those channels are still going to be perfectly aligned. So that's the kind of idea of deep processing, is that you can have on the SQ, you've got 48 input channels. The deep processing can exist 48 times. You can have 48, 76 compressors. How many could you have? 60, 80, 40, 64, 80. So you could have the equivalent of 80, because you've got 48 mono input channels plus 16 mixes where they could be used, and those 16 mixes could be stereo. So you've got, is that right? Yeah, 80. So you've got 80 instances of these modeling compressors. So that's the idea of deep, and it's part of the XCVI. So SQ is deep enabled. Doesn't have the Dyne engine. If you go up to Avantis, you've got deep and you've got Dyne, and if you go up to dLive, you've got deep and Dyne. You got the lot. That's everything. Of course. The reason I'm laughing is because some of these things I have to take myself out of this. I'm an SQ user. I love using SQ. I love mixing. I'm obviously in a privileged position where I could pretend that lots of people have asked for certain things that bug me a little bit. This is one of those things, I'll be honest with you, this bugs me a little bit, and I hope that we will change this in future. So please go vote for it. But yes, it's hitting apply when typing in channel name, but do not need to apply when changing the color. So changing the name changes it in a bunch of places in the routing, I think, and there's something to do with that. But you can do it on the app. So I think that's rubbish. I think we should do it. I think we should change it. Thanks, Andre. Can we use SQ7 in front of house and another console on monitors, for example, a Midas M32? Yes, you can. You just need to interface between them somehow. So you would need to use Waves. Have they got a Waves card? I think Waves or Dante. You could use so you need a card for each console, and then you can share the audio. So that's kind of where those third-party protocols come into play and are very, very useful. Okay. The HM6 is the only way to get the full 16 out. So I guess two. Oh, an AHM question, Kallol. Excuse me. So the there we go. HM16 is 8 analog in outs. The only way to get the full 16x16 in out is by adding SD card and DX68 racks, or is there any other way too? So yes, you could. Oh, completely lost focus now. I'm not the best person to ask. In fact, I'm not going to try and answer that question because I'll probably get it wrong, and I don't want to give you misinformation. I have played around with them a little bit, and I do think they're very cool boxes, but I'm not the expert. So give us a shout using support.alan-heath.com, and we can let you know on that one. Whoa. It's a big question. This is from Phil, and Phil has sent some brilliant ideas in the past as well, and has been doing some really cool stuff with MIDI. So I know where this question is coming from. Any chance of opening up the documentation for some of your currently secret stuff, the API which Mixpad uses, or what's going on the wire to DX16.8? Those are the niche requirements could then get on and solve our own problems. Unfortunately not. So to give you the reasoning for this, it's because a lot of the stuff that we do is considered IP or intellectual property. So We have proprietary protocols that work really, really fast, and they work really, really well. And we've spent a lot of time and put a lot of effort into getting those right and making those work. And it's similar with the control mechanisms for SQ and Mixpad, and they also change. So those change on like a feature. It's usually the feature releases, so the big releases, so like 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. Those underlying communications can change. So those two reasons are basically why we can't share those and why they are top secret, as Phil says. If we shared those with anyone, they cease to be our intellectual property because we've willingly shared them with other people. So we can't share those, and that's the whole reason that we've got MIDI in there. Now, Phil has got a thread on the digital community, which is asking for more MIDI control of things. That's another interesting question. So MIDI is our public protocol for controlling the mixers. That's a slightly different layer. And that is fixed, and that'll always stay fixed, because otherwise somebody might go and update their console out in the field, have a bespoke control system set up in an install, and suddenly break everything. So MIDI has to be fixed forever, which means that when we make decisions on MIDI, we have to say that's how it's going to be for the rest of time. So the way MIDI works, I'm really overrunning now. I shouldn't waffle on about MIDI too much. It's your love, Keith, not everybody else's. So yeah, with MIDI, we've got these kind of addresses. So we've got the parameter addresses, and there's a set amount of those because we've got 14 bits to work with. So we've used up most of those with the implementation that we've got at the moment. We've used up most of those on one channel though. So if you look at something like dLive, Vantis, it spills out over multiple MIDI channels. So if that's something that's suitable, it's not something that's very nice particularly in some situations, but it's sometimes required because you just need that amount of addresses. If you think you've got every input to every mix, that's 48 times 12 for all the auxes, but then you've also got the groups individually, so it's 48 times 24. So you see it very quickly becomes quite a big number. And then you need all the mutes for those channels, and then you need all the so the assigns and the levels and the panning and the etc. etc. So we have used up most of those. The only option would be to spell out onto multiple channels. If that's something that you guys want to see as well as Phil, please do request it in the digital community. I know I love MIDI, so I would love to play with it. Peter says, or Petr says, I may repeat myself, but I'm really interested in lately added effects to dLive, mostly NEQ12. Are you planning to bring those to SQ series anytime soon? Excuse me. So the NEQ12 is very cool. And that's on the outputs, and it allows you to effectively convert a GEQ into having more PEQs. It's not something that's planned for SQ at the moment. We might see it in future. That's kind of the way it works. I mean, the dLive is the bleeding edge of what we're doing. Obviously, being our flagship console, gets the latest and greatest, and then some of that stuff will make its way down to SQ, as we've seen in the past. So I'm not saying it would never happen. So possibly. Okay. So perhaps a dLive question, but what's the advantage of using fiberACE? I really do have to stop in a minute. It's just so many questions. It's so much fun. Perhaps a dLive question, what is the advantage of using fiberACE rather than using gigaACE latency-wise or else? I would say pop along to Jack's session in a couple of weeks and ask Jack that question, because he's got a lot more experience of doing it, because obviously there's no fiberACE in the SQ. We've got gigaACE GX, but dLive has got fiberACE and gigaACE and full-on gigaACE for the console to rack connection. So yeah, Jack would be the guy. How to set limiter on master? Okay, this is a quick one. I'll do this one. And is it peak or RMS? So a limiter on the master. Let's select my master. I'm not feeding you that, am I? No, that's fine. Okay, so I can set my ratio to infinite, which is a limiter, brick wall limiter, and I can set that using peak or RMS. So now all I need to do is set my threshold, set my makeup gain. I need to set my attack and release, but that is effectively a limiter on the output. So nice and easy. Buenos dias from Uruguay. Hi, Jean-Paul. What's best practice for FX and receive levels on main aux mixes? Should we make small adjustments via the send or receive? Okay, cool. I'll give you a very quick answer to this one because it's a bit more of an engineering question. And it's a matter of taste. It's very much a matter of taste and how you work, and different people work in completely different ways, and they might work in different ways for different shows. So personally, I use sends, and the reason I tweak stuff using sends is because if you've got delay tails or reverb tails, you don't interrupt them. So you're not messing with those because that instantly sounds unnatural. So I do it by sends quite a lot if it's reverbs and delays. The returns, obviously you need to balance those up for each performer because you've got one send that goes to the effects unit, and then the only way you can change how different people hear that is through the returns to the mixes, to the monitors. So that would be on returns. But then other people prefer to have reverbs being cut. I mean, if you're there mixing delays, you might want to be putting in single word repeats on the end of a chorus or a like a hook or something. So yeah, it completely depends. But those are my reasonings anyway. So says, sorry, that's a basic question. No, you're self-taught. Awesome. Go for it, dude. And you're here to learn, obviously. So nice one. As coming in later, I'll be reading the same signal for SQ. Of course you have, Mike. I've been reaching the same as SQ5 to HM64 of Dante, split on Dante 6. It's analog into AR84, back to two separate channels of SQ. It's no notable difference. That's pretty amazing. That's a cool setup, actually. So there will be some latency in the Dante card as well. But all of these systems are very, very fast. All of our SQ, and that's one of the beauties of having that XCVI core. So Andrew's got another interesting one. Does SQ4U receive information about the current scene the mixture is in? Not really. It's kind of a it doesn't receive anywhere at the moment, but it's kind of only seen as a remote level control rather than a kind of lots of information. We try to keep the information to a minimum, just because that's bandwidth on the Wi-Fi and stuff, and because the surface, like I was going to in the last session, Andre, is part of that same network. If we put too much strain on the network, then we can kind of we just basically want to avoid it. I mean, we're all about reliability, sound quality, build quality, and that kind of thing, but the reliability is really, really important to us. So we do tend to keep out anything that we think we can keep out from that kind of stuff. But if it's really, really useful, let us know. Maybe it can be in as an option instead. And then we'll just make you aware. And then it's up to you. Okay, something about audio tutorial says why when a recording in stereo mode ends, the recording stops an exclamation mark. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the recording is too long, or if there is an issue with the drive, or if you've left it recording and it's filled up the drive. I'm not sure, but yeah, get in contact with us. Let us know information on what the drive is. Let us know exactly what you're doing, and we can look into that one with you. I'm going to have to wrap up. I'm going to see if there's one more question, but I'll try and get back to these as well afterwards. AHM sessions in future, that would be cool. What kind of drink do you have? English black tea from Midnight Tokyo. Oh, Yoshimi. They don't believe me. It is lemon and ginger with honey. But I could do with some matcha probably right now, Yoshimi. I do love Tokyo. I need to get back to Tokyo. Okay, I'm going to call it a day. There are a few more questions. I'm going to try and get back to them after the session, maybe tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming along. Hope you had fun. I had lots of fun. Sessions, upcoming sessions will be on the sessions page. And obviously just give us a shout anytime. We're all here. We're all very much willing to help you. We want you guys to be happy and get the most out of your mixers. So just give us a shout anytime. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, whether that's half an hour left of it or 23 and a half hours. Take care and see you next time. Ciao.